You know, back in 1990, when Disney released Ducktales the movie that you could see right here, the poster that is, this was actually the first in what was supposed to be planned as a series of movies based on the Disney Afternoon cartoons. It's true. The Disney Afternoon was actually going to be more than a it's actually going to be more than just a 2-hour after-school block, more than a inspired theme park attraction at the Disney parks. It was actually going to be more. Actually, the plan was to take some of the Disney Afternoon cartoons into theaters and make theatrical films out of them. And DuckTales was supposed to be the first in the line of many. Now, according to what I've read online, and many others have read this as well, DuckTales was supposed to also have a series of movies. They were actually supposed to have like some sequels. Although none of this ever materialized. None of the sequels, not the planned Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers film, which was actually planned to be released, and there was evidence of it in a 1990 issue edition of Comic Scene magazine. All that planning for those sequels, the Rescue Ranger film, and future Disney Afternoon inspired feature films were all scrapped and shelved due to the fact that DuckTales the movie bombed at the box office. But it didn't just bomb at the box office. It was also due to a combination of that and the fact that mostly a lot of critics looked at it as nothing more than an Indiana Jones ripoff and an expansion, and nothing more than a 70-minute expansion, episode of the show. That's basically how a lot of people looked at it. They looked at it as nothing more than an Indiana Jones ripoff and an expansion episode, which could have easily been broken down into three or four parts as a miniseries for television. That's how many critics looked at it, and that's why it also bombed at the box office. But, believe it or not, had it succeeded, at doing what it did, and to my opinion, I went and saw the movie in theaters, and I thought it was good. Of course, I was a kid then, I was 11 years old, but hey, I thought it was good. And they promoted the heck out of it. They got the guy with the glasses from A Different World and Tracy Gold from Growing Pains at the time hosting the making of / premiere special for the movie. I mean, they went all out to kind of show that this was a big deal for them because, they wanted to start something big. They wanted to start some kind of new venture, new chapter in the Walt Disney franchise by taking the Disney Afternoon franchise and having it take that leap, that jump into feature films. But again, due to the fact that it did not succeed the way many would hope it would, all the future sequels all the future DuckTales spin-offs that sequels and spin-offs they were hoping for, and all the other feature films based on Disney Afternoon shows like Rescue Rangers were all shelved and put into the vault due to the failure of the movie and the critical failure thanks to critics. But again, had DuckTales the movie succeeded, you would have seen a Rescue Ranger film, which is what a lot of fans at the time wanted to see because Rescue Rangers had become such a big deal, among kids of all ages. Kids and adults of all ages. It became such a popular and big deal. It was such a huge show that I can remember, I can honestly remember that I would go to school, and one of the first things in my classroom, fellow kids like myself at that time would talk about was, what did you think of yesterday's episode of Rescue Rangers? We talk about nothing else, either Rescue Rangers or Ninja Turtles. That was it. But again, unfortunately, we never saw a Rescue Ranger movie materialize due to the failure of DuckTales. But going back to what I was saying, had DuckTales succeeded, despite how critics felt about it, then there's no doubt in my mind DuckTales would have had a feature film. Not DuckTales, but Rescue Rangers would have had a feature film. And when you think about it, if they were going in the order of how the shows premiered on television for the feature film endeavor, what do you think would have came after the Rescue Ranger film? That's right, a Tailspin film. And you think the animation and everything in Tailspin as a series is beautifully done? You think the songs are beautifully done in the pilot? Just imagine what you would have gotten had DuckTales succeeded and the Rescue Ranger movie would have came after it. What do you think you would have gotten with a Tailspin movie? Better, even more beautiful animation and even more beautifully written and energetic songs. I mean, just imagine. Plunder and Lightning Uncut is good the way it is, but just imagine that probably 10 times more with a feature film in theaters. And again, this all goes back to if DuckTales the movie had succeeded. And then, of course, if they're going in order, you'd probably have a Darkwing Duck movie right coming right behind it, right? Because think about how this was going. 1990, you had DuckTales. 91, you were supposed to have Rescue Rangers. 92, you were probably going to get a Tailspin movie. 93, you probably would have gotten Darkwing Duck. 94, you might have gotten another DuckTales movie. And 95, you would have gotten Goof Troop the movie, or Goofy movie as it originally was planned. Well, maybe 94 they would have taken a break because Lion King was the dominant animated film at the time. There was no way they could, probably surpass that or anything. But again, following Darkwing, you would have had a Goofy movie or a Goof Troop movie, which a Goofy movie was. Ironic, huh? And had that succeeded, what do you think would have came after a Goofy movie or Goof Troop the movie? Bonkers. That's right, Bonkers would have came next. And then after Bonkers, what next? Well, you couldn't do a Timon and Pumbaa movie because Lion King had just been released. So what would have been next? Well, simply, you would have had Gargoyles the movie. And no, I'm not talking about the pilot or anything. You would have had Gargoyles the movie all new. It wouldn't have been the Heroes Awaken, which was Awakening. You would have had a completely new animation, completely done and everything. Feature film quality wise, you would have had it. And then after DuckTales, after Gargoyles, what would you had if DuckTales the movie had succeeded back in 1990? You would have had Mighty Ducks the movie. That's right, Mighty Ducks and Quack Pack the movies. And no, I'm not talking about Mighty Ducks the movie, the first face-off, and the 45 to 60 minute movie pilot, combined with the episode Duck Hard. I'm not talking that. I'm talking about a full-length feature film movie of Mighty Ducks. And I'm not talking that live action stuff that inspired the NHL team. I'm talking, Wild Wing, Mallory, Tanya, Nosedive, Duke, Grin, the whole 9 yards. All that would have been done had DuckTales succeeded. He did back in 1990. And then you probably would have had Quack Pack the movie, which probably would have been like the third DuckTales movie. Imagine that. And then after Mighty Ducks, what did you have? You had 101 Dalmatians, the animated series. Now, we've had 101 Dalmatians, the live-action remake. We had 101 Dalmatians here and there. But ladies and gentlemen, if you would have told me a long time ago that we would possibly be on the verge of having 101 Dalmatians, the animated series movie, and I'm not talking the 3-part finale, which you could probably try to find online at places like Amazon or eBay and everything through the video CDs and VHSs. I'm talking about the fact that all new movie featuring the characters of Lucky, Spot, Cadpig, Rolly, Two-Tone, Mooch, Tripod, and all that. That's the movie I'm talking about. But again, none of that materialized. But you know what's ironic, folks, is that 101 Dalmatians would have came out a year before Doug's first movie. That's ironic, isn't it, folks? would have came out about around the same year as Doug's first movie. And that's ironic. And this all goes back to the fact that had Ducktales the movie succeeded, every other show that was on the Disney afternoon, Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, Goof Troop, well, they got their movie, but it was not under the Goof Troop name. It was just more of a reference to it in some ways under a Goofy movie, which also got a sequel, an extremely goofy movie. But then, besides that, you would have had a Bonkers movie, you would have had a all-new Gargoyles movie, an all-new Mighty Ducks movie. You know, you would have had a Quack Pack movie, you would have had a 101 Dalmatians animated series movie, all theatrically released, had DuckTales succeeded. And again, folks, I personally believe in my heart that DuckTales did succeed in theaters, but it was mostly the critics that caused it to bomb. Because you got to remember, back then and even now, anytime people listen to the critics by either reading the reviews in the newspapers or watching them on television, when they would pan a movie and say it's not worth watching even before you go and see it, then nobody's going to go and see it. It's going to drop on the box office. No one's going to go see it. It's going to bomb. That is why DuckTales to me succeeded, but would have succeeded even more had it not been for the critics. And again, like I said, if DuckTales had succeeded, we would have had that whole list of movies. Yeah, we had a Goofy movie. Yeah, we had Doug's first movie. Yeah, we had Recess. Yeah, we had Teacher's Pet. But those would have all been part of a continuity, a chronological, I can't even pronounce it, chronological order of movies based on the Disney afternoon and one Saturday morning shows. One of my favorite shows doing one Saturday morning, which I believe could have gotten feature films had DuckTales succeeded as well, would have been Pepper Ann and the Weekenders. I mean, think about it. You gave Doug a movie. You gave Brand Spanking New Doug a movie. You gave Recess a movie. You gave Teacher's Pet a movie. Weekenders and Pepper Ann would have been great as theatrical films. But again, it's due to the fact that critics looked at movies like DuckTales, probably looked at movies like Recess, looked at movies like Doug, and even Teacher's Pets, and even though the box office says, hey, these are huge hits, critics, they look at them and say, it ain't worth watching because it's nothing more than an expansion of an episode that could have easily been broken into a few parts as a miniseries. That's how they looked at it. I mean, let's put it this way. Transformers the movie back in 1986, a lot of people feel that was one of the best animated films of the 80s. And it defined how people looked at an animated film. Because mostly at that time, an animated film was either G or PG, and it wasn't as violent. And it wasn't violent. But Transformers the movie, threw that all out the window, and they showed that, hey, it could be PG and everything, but it could also be very violent. But again, when that came out, critics panned it by saying it was nothing more than an 86 minute, near 90 minute toy commercial, and that's all it was. Even though many fans would say